Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Today we are going to be in our feelings, okay? We're going to be in our feelings, okay? So I'm going to talk about how I overcame anxiety and depression. And I think it was, of course, maybe 2020. It started like 2020 pandemic time. Yeah, it was like around 2020 when I had first moved out to Los Angeles, which was June of 2020. And this was not my very first time experiencing depression. I think my very first time was in 2018. It was around the time that I was studying for the MCAT. I was doing my research program at Baylor College of Medicine for the summer. And it was a really tough time too. But I feel like this time was different because I didn't have the support or the circle that I had during the time that I was in Houston when I first experienced depression. So I'm pretty much going to talk about how I slowly overcame it. Now, just because I talk about how I overcame depression, that does not mean that I don't have relapses or sometimes those feelings doesn't revisit me, okay? I'm human. I still fall short. But first, I'll give you a backstory. So it started when I moved out to Los Angeles in June of 2020. And during that time, I had just graduated from my master's program. And once again, I was studying for the MCAT. So I was studying for the MCAT. My MCAT was scheduled for the end of July. Took my MCAT, and then boom, I started applying for jobs. But I started applying for jobs like midway through. So maybe like the 1st of July, I started applying for jobs and stuff like that. And man, I thought it was gonna be easy. I thought it was gonna be super easy because I'm like, I'm smart. I have a solid resume. I have so much research experience. I have 2 degrees. I'm young. I'm ambitious. Like all of these things made me feel as if I was ready. I was ready to like overcome and conquer what Los Angeles had to bring for me. Not even just Los Angeles, but what life looked like after schooling. Because I didn't go straight to medical school after my master's program. I knew that I wanted to take a break from school, but I was gonna use that time to like study and like get my life together, explore, enjoy, and things like that. So long story short, I'd applied to about 60 jobs within the first maybe 5 months. And a lot of those were research jobs. I had a solid 5 years or maybe a solid 3 or 4 years of like bench work research, right? On top of volunteer hours, working at the hospital, clinical research. Like I had so much under my belt. So again, I thought it was gonna be easy. One of the reasons why I wanted to move to LA was because I thought that I wanted to go to school at UCLA. That didn't happen. Who says it won't happen in the future? But as of right now, it's not in the works. So I'm like, okay, let me just apply to some jobs at UCLA. Let me figure out what there is I want to do. Y'all, I applied to so many jobs at UCLA. I'm talking about all type of research jobs, and I just kept getting like, and the thing about UCLA, they were waiting months and weeks. Sometimes it'll be like right on where they'll let me know like, hey, your application was not accepted. So I'm like, okay. And then midway through studying for the MCAT, I'm like, maybe I don't want to study for the MCAT. So I emailed this lady at UCLA, and I think I mentioned this in one of my other videos, but the response that she gave me was just so, maybe irate. I don't know if that's the word, but it just wasn't fulfilling to me. And I felt like, okay, well, maybe I won't go to UCLA because that gave me really weird vibes. So boom. Let me just light this stage, guys. I want to clean this atmosphere while I'm talking to y'all, just so we can get the energy right. So anyway, while I'm burning this, I'm like, okay, that's not working out. Took the MCAT, bummed the MCAT. Although I went up from the very first time that I had taken it, it still wasn't enough to get me into someone's program. They're like, oh, still apply. It's the pandemic. A lot of people are waiving it, blase, blase. Went through that whole process and I still wasn't feeling it. Like, so at this point, I'd applied for about 30 jobs, took the MCAT, failed the MCAT, out here with no friends, no family, just me and my boyfriend at the time. And just like, literally there was nothing out here, y'all. I was just like, God, did I make the wrong decision? I am out here. My savings was starting to run low. I got unemployment twice, y'all. They gave me in total about $1,600 for a whole year out here. That's it. So at this point, I'm broke, don't have a job, don't know nobody, failed the MCAT, don't know what I'm about to do in my life. And I'm like, only thing I could do is be like, God, what is wrong with me? What is wrong? What is my purpose? What am I doing wrong? Did I make the wrong decision? Should I have just stayed in New Orleans and took this teacher's position? Because I had got accepted into this teacher's program. What was it called? Teach NOLA. I had got into this teaching program in New Orleans. It was called Teach NOLA. I was like, okay, I'll teach for a year or however long because I have a passion for helping the youth and stuff like that. That didn't work out because, of course, I moved out here. So I'm like, God, did I make the wrong decision? Did I make the wrong decision? So it had got to a point where I'm a year in out here in Los Angeles, and guys, it had got to the point where I would get so close to like getting a job interview, for instance. So this is also around the time where people were trying to find, a lot of pharmaceutical companies were trying to find medicines and treatments for COVID. So I started applying to a lot of pharmaceutical jobs. This one job in particular, what's the name? I can't remember the name, but I applied. I was applying to so many positions, and they used a third-party company. So the lady was like, hey, they want to interview you. They were paying like 6 figures, like to start off. The schedule was kind of like it fit the schedule, was like perfect. So I'm like, okay, this may be a thing. I got so excited. So we had set up the interview date. Never heard back from the lady about the time. And then like 2 days later, she was like, she forwarded me an email from the people over her, and they were like, oh yeah, she doesn't fit our requirement because she had to have a bachelor's degree. It was something so crazy, y'all. I was very overqualified for the job based on the requirements and like my experience. But they were like, yeah, we're not going to interview her because she doesn't fit the job description for it, because her master's program working with cadavers does not align with what we're doing. I'm like, so you just skipped over everything else that I've already talked about in my resume, and you talking about a master's program, which I don't even need to have to get the job? I was over it. I was like, oh gosh, I'm back at square one. Y'all, was back at square one. I'm like, and the thing about bills don't stop. So like at this point, student loan people were contacting me. And were like, you need to pay your money. Like, you've been out of school this long. They didn't care that COVID was there, especially like those private student loans. So had student loans calling me, and this was the thing. So a few months later, my car was in Dallas. I left my car in Dallas because originally I was supposed to go back to Dallas and get my car. My car ended up getting repoed. I did not have the money to pay them. And it was like everybody was just in such a weird predicament because COVID had put a pause on a lot of funds. So it's like I was going back and forth with my car people for months, and then they finally repoed my car. I was like, okay, cool. So that happened. So once again, no job, no car, no funds, no friends or family out here. Do not know what I'm doing in my career, because at this point I'm like, I'm not about to reschedule the MCAT. I don't even have the money to pay for the MCAT. I don't even have the physical capacity, the mental capacity to sit and study for it, because there's so much other stuff that's going on in my life, financially, physically, mentally. I cannot sit and study for an 8-hour test. That was just impossible. So I'm like, I don't know what to do. I started trying to make candles. The candles didn't work out too well. I mean, I tried everything, guys, and I didn't. So it had got to a point where I'm like, I can't let this bring me down. So it's something that I started to get into. I started to get into plant therapy, guys. Like, when I tell you, plant therapy was my gateway, my introduction to overcoming what I was feeling. I'm like, there has to be something. So I thought about like being an influencer. I'm like, okay, I can take my story and turn it around, start doing plants and start cooking. So I started a cooking page. I started my plant journey, and I started doing all these other things. I started trying to find things that didn't necessarily bring me money, but brought me happiness. So I started doing things that brought me happiness versus bringing me money, right? Because at this point, I'm like, I can't do anything else. The least I can do is, control what's going on around me and my surroundings. So when I did get a little money, I'm like, okay. Or even my boyfriend, he'll go and like, he'll take me to a nursery, we'll get some plants, and like, it was super like relaxing and so nice to like nurture and see my plants grow. And I feel like my plants really went through a phase with me. Like, some of them made it through that phase and some of them didn't. And it was like a reflection of my life, because where I am right now, I feel like a lot of people that I was close with or in association with, I don't really have them in my life right now. And it's not that there were bad terms, it's just that you have seasons. People are seasons. Plants are seasonal. So a lot of my plants, I mean, I still have about 5 or 6 solid plants that maybe a little more, maybe like 10 plants that really stuck with me from the beginning to the end. And then you had some to die off. And just like people talk about with like fall, and you see all these dead leaves and stuff like that, like, things are gonna fall off. People are gonna fall off. Things are just not gonna always align how you want them to align, but it's gonna align in perfect divine timing. And that's something that I've learned through the process of getting over quote unquote depression or anxiety. And my anxiety had gotten really bad because I had moved from, so you're talking about a girl that's from Mississippi to New Orleans to LA. Think about the difference in cultures, the difference in population, the difference in the fast life. Like, it was just crazy, y'all. It was like super, super crazy. So, and then around this time, I think there was like a few mass shootings. I know there was like one where this guy had like walked into a grocery store and like shot some stuff up, and then like shot and killed some people. It was like a lot of stuff going on. So I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm in this really big city. I don't know nobody. I would go to the grocery store, y'all, when I tell you, my heart would be beating. Like, I could literally hear my heart outside of my chest. I'm like, God, please take away this anxiety. Like, it would be to the point where my boyfriend loved watching stuff with like shooting and killing and black gangster movies and stuff like that. I can't watch that, me personally, because of my anxiety, just seeing people being hurt and killed, and mostly black people. And that's what was going on in the real world outside. Like, there were a lot of black people killings. I think there was like a few riots in LA when we moved out here. Like, I think the day we got out here, that's when they did like the looting or something, where they were like tearing down buildings and stuff like that. So we literally was like moving in the middle of like a revolution or something. Like, it was just crazy. So every time I would leave at the house, even sometimes sitting on the couch watching TV, like, I couldn't focus on what was on the TV because my mind was racing of everything that was going on. I'm like, what if this? What if that? Oh my gosh. Oh, oh. And it was so overwhelming, and it was clouding my mind. And I'm like, God, I don't want to live like this. And so, like I said, I did my plant therapy. And then another thing that I started doing, well, I didn't really start doing, I was journaling since 2018, I would say since my senior year in college. But I started back doing it more consistently during this journey. I'm like, okay, I know before I moved out here, some of the things that I had manifested and wrote in my journal, and I prayed and meditated on it, like, God literally provided that to me. So my advice to you guys that have been where I've been and still go sometimes is like, sometimes you have to take a minute and you have to really sit cry, release, and let God be in control. But you have to let God know, like, God, I trust you. Although this journey looks so rocky and so wavy and so unsure, God, I trust you. I put my trust in you. If you want me to sit at this house for another year in the same predicament to get me to see what you want me to see, I'll do it. That's what I had gotten with God. I'm like, if that's what you want me to do, God, I'm gonna do it. Like, because he had led me so far, but it wasn't so far straight. God had led me to points where he had broken me, but it was gracefully. And oh my gosh, it was like during my senior year when I had finally like just got this ball of light. Gracefully Broken was my song. So there were times during this depression and anxiety time where I would just play that song. I would just play it in my head. I'm like, God, I know you don't break us to destroy us. You break us gracefully so that we may learn, so that we may understand what you have for us, right? So it's like when I started to think in that mindset and really like believe and have faith, things also started to change. Like, even though I didn't have a job yet, I started to become more faithful and more trusting of my process. So it was just, it was a journey. So one, just to recap, I started doing things that led to my inner peace and that brought me happiness, whether there was things that didn't bring me money. I feel like I was so focused on things that would bring me money because I felt like money was my source of happiness, because I had student loans, I had bills, I had car note, I had, just all type of stuff that I had to pay for. And I felt like money was a source, but that's not really the source, which is why I kind of started to like redirect my whole career choice. I'm like, I'm finding things that I actually kind of like, and it's not bringing me a whole lot of money, but like if I really stay into it, I may actually get paid for it. You know what I'm saying? Even if I don't, it's cool because it's bringing me peace. It's bringing me peace. So plant therapy, and then I started journaling. Y'all, I would journal I would journal pages and pages and pages, just letting it all out. And then another thing that I would do is like I would do something called high vibrational writing. So a lot of mornings I would get up and I would just feel like, I don't want to be here. Like, why am I in this predicament? I hate this apartment. I hate this life. Like, so everything that I would think, I got this from Drika Gates. I would write it down, all of my negative thoughts. Write it. I mean, just front to back. And I think I would do it for 12 minutes. I would set the timer for 12 minutes. And then I'll just write. When I'm done, I will light it. You feel me? Like, I will light up everything and I will burn it and toss it. That helped. And this may be TMI, but Drika said that she was like, even after you do that, you may want to cry. You may want to take a You may, like, literally, just because you've released so much of that negative tension and negative energy, your body is also physically going to release it. And that would happen. Like, sometimes I would cry. Sometimes I'll be on the toilet for hours, just releasing everything that I woke up with and went to sleep with. So that was another thing that I did. Also, I started to really try to change my morning routine and my outlook on things. So I started meditating and I started reading the Bible. And I don't want to get on here and try to flex because I did not read the Bible as much as I should have, and I still don't, and I eventually want to get there. But I really started to gain a relationship with the higher power, and I'm like, God, I just want to use this first 10 minutes of my day. I'm going to get up early. I'm going to use this first 10 minutes and I'm going to give it to you. I'm going to just meditate and I'm going to get my mind right and I'm going to just let my body flow. Okay, so I started doing things like that, and y'all, I mean, slowly but surely, my life started to turn around. It really started to turn around. And I call her my soul sister because she is just on a whole nother different vibration. She's super high vibrational right now, but shout out to Brielle. She said that she doesn't like to labor. Well, I'm going to paraphrase what she said because I don't want to misinform you guys on what she actually said. But something that I took from what she said in one of her YouTube videos was that Sometimes we can use the label as depressed as a crutch. When in reality, depression is maybe you just don't know who you are. You just don't know what your purpose is. So honestly, looking back, I think that's what it was. I didn't know what my purpose was. This was the first time in like that I can remember that I had gone through something consistently where I feel like nothing I was doing made sense. Like everything that I did seemed like I was just on the totally wrong path, y'all. When I tell you, I could have applied to Burger King and I still would have got denied. Like that's how intense my journey was. Like, oh my gosh, think about somebody who is very well educated, you know, very intelligent, very ambitious, sitting and sinking in this sunken place. You know, it was just like, what do I do, God? Is this the end? And honestly, it was the beginning. It was the beginning of something great. You know what I'm saying? And like now, when I have those moments where I revisit those feelings of emptiness or depression or not knowing who I am or feeling as if I'm on the wrong path, it's like I'm reminded of that journey that I went through a year ago when I didn't know anything. I didn't know where I was in life, but somehow it worked out. It worked out. When I tell you, I got this isn't my dream career, but like if you think of a dream job, the job that I have is a dream job. Like anybody if I tell anybody what I do for my job and the benefits that I give with my job, they're gonna be like, that's real? Because I stayed patient, I stayed resilient, I stayed faithful, I stayed trusting in God. I'm like, God, this can't be the end. Even the day that I felt like this is it, I want to leave this earth, I don't want to be here. And, you know, I thank God for my support system, my family, and my boyfriend who just kept me uplifted during that time. But it's like nothing nobody could say could stop me from feeling how I was feeling. But God gave me that sense of it's going to be okay. Like I felt like he just hugged me. He just hugged me. And he said, don't worry. Don't worry. Don't worry. And it's just like, now I feel like I am living the dream. I'm nowhere where I want to be, but I see that I have a bright future ahead. I'm really at the point where I want to take full advantage of everything that God has in store for me, and that's good and bad in it. And I'm still learning and I'm still growing, and this is all a process. Life is a process. You're gonna have good days, you're gonna have bad days. My dad always tell me that every day isn't gonna be a good day. My mom always tell me that anything worth having is not gonna be easy. So life in general is not going to be easy. If you had an easy life, you would never learn anything. You would never learn anything. So I'm glad that I went through that experience of feeling so down, that now that I'm up, I can appreciate the upness. I can appreciate being present. I can appreciate just when days aren't good or when days aren't bad. Like I feel like my patience is just better. I don't, you know, I'm not perfect, okay? But like I don't get upset as easily. I'm not as triggered. I don't let low vibrations really come over and take over my life as much as I used to. Like I just feel good, and I want that for everybody. Like, so this is a message to anybody that's out there feeling like you don't know what your purpose is, you feel worthless, you feel useless. I'm here to tell you that each day God wakes you up, it's a chance for you to go and be great. Even if that's sitting on your couch and just thinking and writing down ideas of what you want to be, who you want to become, or if there's just sitting down praying and meditate, whatever that is, the fact that God woke you up to see another day means that he has something so much greater in store for you. No matter how today looks, no matter how tomorrow looks, no matter how yesterday looked, he has something in store for you as long as you are breathing. As long as you are able, he has something for you. So do not get discouraged, okay? I'm going to end this video because I don't want to sit here and like talk y'all ears off. But like if y'all have any questions, any concerns, any comments, like feel free to comment. I'm here for y'all. We're here for each other. Like Together we stand, divided we fall. I grew up off that saying. I'm a strong believer of that saying. I am not nothing without a community. I'm nothing without a community. And I want to use my platform to bring something positive, to bring a light to people, because I know how it feels to be low and in a dark place. I've been there so many times. I still go there, but we do not have to stay there. Do not stay stuck. Do not stay in that mindset of, especially with us Black people, we've gone through years and centuries and decades on top of decades of trauma. So a lot of us are dealing with PTSD, again, depression, anxiety, all these other things. And it's like, we don't have to stay there. We have control. So take control over your inner being, and everything else outside, I promise y'all, it will prevail. You will be okay. Okay? I love you guys, and I hope this video helped. Please feel free to like, subscribe, comment, or whatever, share however. I really hope this helps someone. So have a good day, and see you later.